Paragraph 16 to 18 of Pope Pius XI's encyclical on Christian marriage define marriage as the ordained ideal not only for procreation, but also for the education of the offspring thereby obtained. Indeed, the Code of Canon Law, as cited in paragraph 17, affirms that the primary purpose of marriage is the procreation of and education of children. Such education is twofold, pertaining to their natural life as well as the supernatural. Essentially, what the Church has established as true can be summarized as follows. The procreation of children must occur within the confines of Christian marriage, a finite arrangement meant ultimately for their social and primarily spiritual upbringing. Like any and all families, the nuclear family structure, understood here as a household headed by both parents joined in matrimony, will face its own challenges. However, the merits of life within such a household cannot be understated. In the first instance, the availability of both parents makes for the easy resolution of conflicts and challenges. The presence of both parents in the children's lives guarantees significant involvement. As it relates to the children themselves, these are more likely to be financially, emotionally, socially, and academically stable, as they are able to rely on not one, but both of their parents. The idea of the relationship between the family and society as mutually beneficial reinforces the stability of families, exemplified by the nuclear family, as being crucial for the continued stability of society. I invite you now to consider the perceptions and possibilities as presented in the following video.
Again. It's dinner time and they're fighting again and again and again. Every single night, the same thing. Screaming, crying, shouting. Amy's crying again. I thought having both parents was supposed to make us normal. I thought we were supposed to be a normal family. Why? Why not? My friend thinks that having both parents makes me normal and makes my family normal. She'll never understand. Maybe she's better off with one.
Why are you always spending my money?
Every single night the same thing. Why can't daddy just work less? And why can't mommy just get a job? Don't they want to spend time with us? Are we burdens? Are we chores? Does he love us? Does she love us? Daddy says he cares, but that won't ever be enough. He's just a man after all. So much he can't take. Daddy, please don't leave.
I'm leaving this time for good. I can't
No, please.
Shoot, I can't leave. I can't leave my kids. I'm saying to them.
thank you for taking care of me, taking care of me. You kept me warm, you make me proud, and you were always around, always around.
Always around, do you see that every day? Moms and dads pack up and run away. But no, my mom was there for me. Always thank God for always keeping her here with me. Her time, her guidance was all that I needed. Her love, her trust was all that I needed. Hey mom, I wrote this song for you. Now listen to it the way that I listen to you.
Hey mama, hey mama,
I know it's been rough.
hey mama,
I know it's been tough.
hey mama,
Me and you,
hey mama,
just us two.
hey mama,
I made it
hey mama,
'cause of you, you.
hey mama. I wanna thank you for taking care of me, taking care of me, yeah. You kept me warm, you make me proud, and you were always around, always around, oh, oh, oh.
Since its inception, Caribbean society has shown a greater incidence of non-marriage-based households. Yet, these two have managed to produce upstanding offspring, both socially and spiritually. The Barbadian contingent dares to posit that the Church's teaching and evangelization on family in relation to the procreation and education of children has ignored and continues to ignore the reality for many Caribbean families. Let us consider the Diocese of Bridgetown. Barbados' population comprises a very small number of Catholics. Less than 5%, some 10,000 persons, declare themselves to be Catholic, of which a mere 20% are practicing. While fortunate enough to boast relative stability in most, if not all aspects of society, Barbados can only characterize a minority of its households as being intrinsically marriage-based. According to the 2010 census conducted by the Barbados Statistical Service, only an approximate 30% of Barbadian mothers aged 15 to 64 had their first child with their husband. In other words, some 70% of children were potentially born outside of wedlock. So, what is the point that we're trying to get across? That, according to Casti Connubi, a stable society dependent on households and families not necessarily built on marriage or out of marriage should not exist. Indeed, Pope Pius makes the following quite clear. Since the duty entrusted to parents for the good of their children is of such high dignity and of such great importance, every use of the faculty given by God for the procreation of new life is the right and the privilege of the married state alone, and must be confined absolutely within the sacred limits of that state. It is logical to assume then that any and all exceptions to this rule can only result in the missed education of the offspring in question. However, let us be clear, we in no way seek to undermine the value of and the Church's position on the divine institution that is marriage. Instead, alongside teachings on such, we wish to see greater emphasis on the family in its differing forms. Earlier, we chose to highlight the single-parent familial structure relative to the traditional nuclear family, what both are perceived to be versus what the reality very well could be. Yet, the Church also seems to very much ignore the existence of common law unions and the resultant offspring. Visiting relationships, another family structure within itself, appear to have the best interest of the children at heart. The concept of separated parents maintaining regular contact with the child and each other, even if solely for the sake of the child, seems to mirror quite well the understanding that the right and duty of educating their offspring belongs in the first place to those who began the work of nature by giving them birth. Nevertheless, these two tend to be left on the periphery. Such exclusion, not at all to be mistaken for a devaluation of the sacred nature of marriage and its importance to procreation, needs to be addressed. Returning to marriage itself, though, we have found that a great area of weakness has been in the area of education. Education on marriage as both a sacrament and as a vocation. The holy essence of marriage remains sorely understated. Portrayals in popular culture trivialize it to little more than an emotional affair. What we as church do not emphasize is that marriage is a sacrament of service, not only to one's spouse, but to one's children as well. As a vocation, marriage and family life is also downplayed. The pursuit of the priesthood and religious life are promoted as honorable decisions, sacrifices worth making. Meanwhile, family life is relegated to a pseudo-default option, the fallback, if you will. But where is the active promotion of married life? This void is perhaps most noticeable in the post-confirmation period, where a newly confirmed Catholic will inevitably be faced with a single choice, whether to pursue religious or married life. If procreation is truly to be understood and accepted as intended for and indeed ideal within marriage, the Church, inclusive of its people, needs to be more active where the promotion of the family is concerned. Taking such a step must entail a twofold commitment, as alluded to before. Greater advocacy of marriage and its significance without marginalizing such non-marriage based families as identified previously. Should this become a reality, the Church would have a much greater chance of seeing its Catholic families become prototypes for emulation, especially for those families that we deem to be excluded, both within the Roman Catholic community and the wider society. One might think of this as a form of passive evangelization. By emphasizing the value of marriage and family, our own families will be strengthened and thus able to minister to both families and individuals outside of the Church by simply living out their reinforced confidence in purpose. The benefit to the Roman Catholic community is impossible to ignore. A cycle of strong families awakening within each other, family units, a desire to be similarly strengthened through the very faith on which the former have themselves been built. By expanding its evangelical reach, where the family is concerned, the Church would inevitably gain a new avenue for the spread of the word. Much is revealed in Pope Pius XI's encyclical on Christian marriage. However, the sanctity of marriage remains undeniable. The Barbadian contingent nevertheless maintains that the Caribbean reality continues to reveal that many non-marriage based families, particularly single-parent households, have also succeeded and on occasion even surpassed families that enjoy the sacrament of marriage. It is on these grounds that we contend that the Church has missed a great opportunity for evangelization in the past by limiting its scope to marriage-based families.